From the pages of the World Wrestling Federation magazine, here's updates.
Party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. I am here, live in the living color, if you will. If you've seen the thumbnail, if you know what's what, and you should at this point, it is Undertaker Last Ride time. The Undertaker, The Last Ride documentary, episode 3 dropped today. I'm not going to do Undertaker voice all the way through. I think that's it, actually. Chapter 3, The End of an Era. The end of an era. So, we start off with the Cena match, where we left off before, and Undertaker reiterates that the Cena match left him empty. You see, he was hoping for more like a 20 or 30 minute match. He had trained to go 45, so he was looking for like a 20 or 30 minute match, but he only got like 5, or he got like 2, and it left him feeling empty, you know. And even his daughter chimed in, who looked just like, Jesus Christ, Undertaker has strong genes. His daughter looks just like him. His son looks just like him. He's got ridiculously strong genes for a man who looks like he does. Like, what the fuck? Nobody looks like their mother here? Shit. Anyway, she was upset at him because he beat John Cena. He was upset that they only got a couple minutes, and so it left him feeling empty, and he wanted more. He specifically said, "You'd have thought me and Cena would have been 20 or 30 minutes. And at that point, I could have walked away, had it been that." Well, here's a couple things that needs to... Let's take both those statements one at a time. You'd have thought me and Cena would have gone 20, 30 minutes. Yes. 10 years ago. Undertaker, in this documentary, is showing that he has either has no perception of time, or a warped perception of time, or is intentionally warping his perception of time and himself, and how much time he has left on his career, and what has happened in the recent past with his career on grand scales. We're not talking about a guy in his prime, a guy just before his prime, or maybe even, maybe on the tail end having 1 or 2 bad matches every once in a while, but overall, the scope of what he does on a regular basis in a concentrated time space is good, is great, is at a peak elite level. We're not talking about that. We're talking about The Undertaker post WrestleMania 30, and even WrestleMania. We're talking about Undertaker post WrestleMania 29, which is more miss than hit. He's got a track record of more misses than he does hits. And he doesn't grasp that. He doesn't understand that, at least in this documentary. So yeah, especially coming off the Roman match, where he was out there for an excruciatingly long time. Excruciating. It was bad to watch that match. He was out there for an excruciatingly long time. Yeah, you know what? Trim his time next time. If you're going to bring him back, that's not a terrible decision. It doesn't come off like Taker thinks that I don't know if he's fooling himself, because he ain't fooling me, and he ain't fooling nobody else. He shouldn't. First off, I don't think he should have been back out there at all. But fine, Vince brought him back, and they're gonna bring him back for that 5-minute match with Cena. Fine, do that. He wasn't gonna get 20 or 30. Especially after the 20 or 30 he had the year before. Or 40. However long it was way too long. No, he wasn't going to get that. No, he didn't deserve that. Not at that point. And by the way, neither did Cena. Cena is at the end of his career. It was only a couple years ago. Cena was having the occasional barn burner with AJ Styles or somebody like that. But Cena's at the tail end. That may have been like just before or just after. That was like right in that same time frame, so it's hard to decipher without like looking everything up. But yeah, we're looking at the end of Cena's career too. Like these aren't young studs he's out there with, and the last time he was out there with a young stud like Roman Reigns, it wasn't good either. So no, Taker didn't deserve 20 or 30 minutes that Mania. No, he did not. For the grace of his career and that Mania and that show and just the perception of him and his legacy, no, he did not deserve 20 or 30 minutes that next main event. He probably didn't deserve it ever again, but we all know differently, don't we? Then he says, had that been it, I could have walked away. If you're watching this, watch with a bottle of Jack and take a shot every time he says that. I just want to remind you that 2-drink minimum is not responsible for your alcohol poisoning. Taking a shot every time The Undertaker teases that a match, had it gone his way, could have been the last match he ever had. Fucking hell. Again, who's he fooling? It ain't me. Who's he fooling? Who's he fooling with that statement? Hold on to that, because he says it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm going to get to the part where it really starts irritating me where he says that. But let's move forward a little bit. Then we get into Saudi money. He doesn't mention that the Saudi money is what brought him back for that Rusev casket match. He doesn't mention that. But he says, oh, it's a great opportunity, and these people and blah, 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 what they're doing over there is special. And yeah, it's, again, sucking up to the prince, because God knows if one thing will bring Taker back, it'll be that Saudi oil blood. Oh, so bloody. Tastes like drawn and quartered journalists. Tastes like women having no rights. Or left. Oh, God. He doesn't mention that. He talks about the culture. But give me a fucking break. There is a cool shot in there of like a whole bunch of people having dinner with the Saudi prince, including Vince at the table sitting next to him. But Brock's there, Kurt's there, playing with his phone. Taker's there in his suit. They're all having money with the Saudi, or money. Yeah, yes. They're all having food with the Saudi prince. Then we show clips of the Rusev casket match. Again, the documentary, the one thing nobody in any review or takeaway from The Undertaker's last ride is going to be able to say is that the production value on this is not top fucking tier. It is. It is amazing. They have shots of Undertaker before some of his bad matches that make him look like, oh shit, he's... fuck, that's still The Undertaker. Until we see the actual footage of what happened in the actual match. It's like, oh yeah, that's old Undertaker. Like, the footage that they got, the backstage footage, the documentary footage is amazing. And the way they put it together, the music that they use, the cuts, it's all fantastic. And here we see, again, what they did last episode with the Cena match, trying to make this casket match with Rusev look better than it was. Trying to make Taker in this match with Rusev look better than it was. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. Now, they don't go into the specifics of the match. They just show clips of it. We don't get the story at all about how Jericho was penciled in to replace Rusev and then re-replaced again last second. We don't get the Bury Me Softly Brother tweet or anything like that. We don't get any clips or rather any sit-downs or words of any kind with Rusev. Fuck Rusev. Fuck Rusev, says WWE. We don't get any kind of anything with Rusev, just the clips of him taking old school choke slam and getting in that casket. That's all we see of Rusev, like he'd never fucking existed. And Taker's like, I don't take any of these matches for granted at my age, blah, 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 super special, yada, yada, yada. Okay. That one was taken for granted. Then we get into Taker going to MSG for the last time. I don't know if that was the last time he went. I remember they did the spectacle. They lit MSG up in purple. That whole thing. They advertised it as Undertaker's last ride through MSG, etc., etc., etc. I don't know if that's been his last ride there since. I can't remember if they've had shows there or not since then. Like, MSG has a lot of history behind it for a lot of people in wrestling, you know, for different reasons. For me, though, especially at this point, I've been watching wrestling for 22 years. No, excuse me. 27 years. Shit. I've been watching wrestling for 27 years. MSG shows aren't you know, I don't. First off, if they did any Raws or SmackDowns there, I wouldn't know because I haven't seen any Raws or SmackDown really in years on that level. I wouldn't really remember. I don't remember any I don't think they do pay-per-views there anymore. I only remember a couple of shows from MSG: WrestleMania 10, SummerSlam 98, WrestleMania 20 are the ones, and Survivor Series 2002 or 3. I think that was 2. Might have been 3. I think it was 2 though. Yeah, because that was the one with the SmackDown 6 and everything. So I don't, you know, it doesn't hold. I'm a West Coast guy. I'm from LA. MSG doesn't hold a special place in my heart. So if Taker has been back to MSG since then, whatever. So in this documentary, they act like it's the last time. And it's a 6-man match, him, Roman, and Braun against Baron, Owens, and Seth, I think. And he gets the pinfall. And it's super special. He takes a look. He says he sits there and he takes a look around and does what he never allowed himself to do, really, and that's make eye contact with the fans. And that's not abnormal. Actually, a lot of people who perform in front of an audience of any kind, whether that be athletes, singers, actors, what have you, they make a point not to make eye contact, because when you lock in with one person, it throws off your mojo. It takes you out of the moment you're supposed to be in when you're performing and puts you into a moment with that person. Unless on super rare occasions, that person that you're making eye contact is somebody you know, wife, significant other, family member, mother, father, whatever. That can sometimes help you, you know what I mean? If you're in that kind of space. Sometimes it hinders you, actually. But most people don't do that. Most performers in front of live crowds don't do that. So that's not anything abnormal. And to do that at the tail end of your career, what you think is the tail end of your career, and you say, oh, okay, at this point, I'll take a look around and see what I see and, you know, make eye contact with the fans. This is really special. That makes sense. And it's not something that isn't unheard of. So that makes absolute sense. We then go into Triple H with a quick moment talking about closure moments. And to piggyback off the MSG thing, he says, you know, when you're chasing that closure moment, those closure moments can be a catch-22, because when it's really good, you want another one. And he's not wrong. And when he's really bad, you want another one. He's not wrong. So and that's really part of the overarching theme that weaves its way through this episode is Undertaker's relationship with the end of his career, with that closure moment, with finding how he wants to end his career, because he knows he's near the end of his career. Then Taker gets the call to have the Australia match versus Triple H. And here's where I was confused, because I didn't watch, this is where I was confused between this and Crown Jewel. So him and Triple H were at Super Showdown in Australia. Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia was the DX versus Brothers of Destruction match. He talks about him getting the call for that, and then we go into Triple H's and Undertaker's relationship. And it's not really much that I haven't heard before, especially over the years, about how they're not buddy-buddy. They don't, go out for, dinners. They don't out for steaks and weightlifting and all that other stuff together. But they have a healthy respect for each other, a healthy friendship with each other, backstage. Triple H talks about how at a certain point over the course of 25 years, there's only 2 things that stay the same in the locker, that are still there in the locker room, and that's you and Taker. And so you kind of built this relationship, you kind of built this respect for each other. They talk about an earlier part of Triple H's career in WWE where Taker calls him over, they sit down, he has a drink with Triple H, and Triple H is like, he knows he doesn't drink, he knows I don't drink. I don't drink, and he knows that, but it was kind of like a show of respect, thing, and we got that for each other, we got that respect for each other, and that's one of those things that I've heard before. Maybe a lot of fans haven't, but I looked at dirt sheets a lot in high school and after that, so it's stuff I've heard, and I've seen other shoot interviews, and I think that story and that whole time frame was kind of mentioned in one of Triple H's DVDs, I think. So that may have been another place where I heard that story before. So then we roll into the 4 matches with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. And Taker talks about how those are his 4 favorite matches of his career of all time. I think many fans would disagree. I think many longtime fans, many fans that don't just swallow everything that they're fed by WWE would disagree. Taker and Shawn's 2 matches, stellar. Absolutely, probably the best matches Taker has ever had. You know, it's hard to debate those 2. It's hard to debate those 2 against each other, but it's hard to find any other 2 Taker-Shawn matches or Taker matches that aren't at that level, or that are at that level. And it's hard for a lot of people not to say that those are the 2 greatest matches of all time. And, you know, hey, sometimes it's of the era that you're in. You know, a lot of older school fans will still say Flair and Steamboat. And if you ask me on any given day, well, actually, if you ask me, my favorite matches are Foley matches. But aside from, and ironically enough, Foley Taker Hell in a Cell is one of my favorite matches of all time. But it's hard to debate with wrestling fans' greatest matches of all time. One thing that isn't hard to debate is that Triple H versus Undertaker in the last Mania matches they had together, I think it was the No Holds Barred one, I think it was one of them, and the Hell in a Cell, aren't really debated as the greatest Undertaker matches of all time. They're not. Like, they're not. Like, there are other Undertaker matches that I think that Undertaker and Bret had, in my opinion, better matches than Trips and Taker did those last 2 go-rounds, in my humble opinion. You know, you could make the argument for, well, those 2 were bigger matches. They weren't necessarily better. I was going to say Taker versus Austin or Taker versus Kane. Those were bigger matches. They weren't necessarily better matches. Shit, Taker and Shawn at Ground Zero was amazing. Taker and Shawn at the original Hell in a Cell was fucking amazing. You know, there are other matches I would put either in the running or even ahead of the Triple H Taker matches. Like, for instance, I have gone back and watched Taker and Shawn multiple times. I have not gone back and watched Taker Triple H. Either of those last 2 matches. I never needed to see those again. I saw them once. They were great in the moment. I'm not saying they were bad. I'm saying I wouldn't put them in the top 4 Taker matches of all time. Because I've never gone back and watched them again. Don't feel the need to. They happened. I've never gone back and like, oh, I remember that, this, that, I don't care. Clips are fine every once in a while. I don't need to see those other 2 matches ever again. But, you know, for Taker, he feels that they're some of his favorite matches of all time. Then we roll into Taker's relationship with Shawn Michaels. Cursory summary, not the whole thing. You know, he talks about how obviously Shawn Michaels is hard to get along with in the Attitude Era and early on, and you know he wasn't too high on the kid. But there was some level of respect there for him. And then they roll through to Shawn becoming a Christian, and then they start seeing more eye to eye with each other, and Shawn is more matured, and they have more of a respect for each other, and more closer to like the Triple H kind of relationship / friendship with each other. One note that I remember here is seeing Shawn Michaels with the Undisputed Era hat. Clearly, Shawn Michaels, and this is not the first time I've seen Shawn Michaels with Undisputed Era gear on. Shawn Michaels loves Undisputed Era. Shawn Michaels clearly is an Undisputed Era fan because I've seen him more than once wearing Undisputed Era gear. So if anybody gets this pass and seal of approval from Shawn Michaels, it's boom, because Shawn Michaels, he can't not wear, if he's not wearing DX stuff, he's wearing Undisputed Era stuff. So clearly he's a fan, and you know, shout out to them for that. We roll into though a key difference between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. They talk about Undertaker retiring Shawn Michaels and how Taker respects Shawn for being able to ride off in that sunset and being at peace with retiring. He does the he mentions being specifically at peace with retiring the way Shawn Michaels does, and how he respects that of him, and he hopes to find that one day. Shawn talks about how Undertaker is chasing a dragon. For those of you that don't know, the chasing the dragon euphemism, that's a euphemism for heroin. That's a euphemism for chasing something that you don't want to catch. that you know what I mean? It's a euphemism for chasing a high over and over and over and over again to try to get that level or better. And he talks about how Taker can't let it go. How he was able to make peace with it because he found more joy in his home life, his wife, his kids, etc. And how that's one of the things you have to do if you're a guy like Taker, but a guy like Taker hasn't done it yet or can't do that yet because he hasn't separated himself from his career yet. Edge is very poignant and profound here, and it's almost like he's holding back emotion. Like he's not quite crying the way he was on top of that semi truck against Randy Orton, a guy who RKO'd his fucking wife. But he's holding back emotion. He's saying, he wishes Taker finds his last match. He talks about how Taker's looking for that last match over and over again. He's looking for that he's looking for that moment, that perfect moment. He hopes Taker finds it. And when it comes, he hopes Taker is smart enough to take it. Ooh. Because there's multiple parts to that ending your career equation. Yes, there is finding that moment. There is having that moment. There is setting it up. There is doing that. Then there's taking it. Then there's keeping it. I honestly can't think off the top of my head of any wrestlers. Actually, the one off the top of my head I can think of is I guess Ultimate Warrior. It's the only like retirement match I can think of where the Undertaker where the wrestler took that last moment, that last dance, that last ride, whatever these documentaries would call it, that last bow, that final bow, took it and then actually did ride off into the sunset. And didn't come back into another match, right? He may not have had time, but he had that last match with Orlando Jordan, which was a weird choice considering Ultimate Warrior's stance on anything non-heterosexual. But he had that last match with Orlando Jordan in whatever place he had it in, and that was it. That was literally his last match. He never wrestled again. That was all. Shawn didn't have it. Shawn had it. Shawn had it for a while. The setup was great. Him, Taker, boom, go down, don't get up. 1, 2, 3, that's the end. Bye, Shawn, bye. Doesn't come back to wrestle ever again. Comes back for ref spots, reunions, whatever. Doesn't come back to wrestle ever again until Saudi Arabia brought that Brinks truck up to San Antonio and brought him out of retirement. So he didn't complete the puzzle. He didn't complete the puzzle. Ric Flair. Arguably the greatest retirement ever. Arguably the greatest retirement ever. Leave the memories alone. That was a warning. I swear to God, Triple H probably picked that song specifically to tell Rick, leave the memories alone. This is it. We're finishing up your run here. Done. Bing, bang, boom, you're out. At the retirement, big celebration at the end of the thing. all his, most of his fucking enemies from the past come back. The Steamboats, the Arns, the Four Horsemen, everybody except Ole because he's an old curmudgeon. Everybody, the whole locker room pours out after the Raw goes off the air. Then Undertaker even comes out and or show respect and hugs him and all this other stuff. He's crying because he's Ric Flair. Charlotte's crying because she's a Flair too. Oh, the tears! You can't tell me you weren't crying too. We see more clips of "I'm sorry, I love you." Oh, you're gone. Perfect retirement until a couple years later where he needs the money and he's in TNA. And people talk about that, but they don't talk about that run he had with Hogan touring, I think it was Australia even, on that tour that he had where they were headlining every night. Because he needed the money. Cena? Did Cena retire? We don't know yet. We don't know yet if Cena's officially gone. Like WrestleMania was only a couple months ago. Austin. You have Austin. Austin retired WrestleMania 19, never came back. Not another match. Nothing. Comes back, guest spots, do his podcast, maybe stuns a rookie or two. Not match. He didn't come back for a match. So Warrior and Austin are the two that I could think of that retired on their terms and retired. But Taker, not so much. So no Edge. He hasn't found it yet, at least that we know of. He hasn't. There were a couple of times where he did have it, but he didn't take it. He should have taken it with CM Punk. That should have been the last time. He avenged Paul Bearer. Last really good match at WrestleMania. Bye. 21-0. Bye. But he didn't. He came back for Brock. Got concussed. He lost to Brock. Streak is over. Another reason. End it. Streak is over. Done. Nothing else to see here. Bye-bye. He didn't. He came back. And he came back. And he came back. Came back against Roman. Terrible match. Awful match. But coat on, coat off. Hat on, hat off. Gloves on, gloves off. In the ring. Walking around. Hugging Shell. Falls into the ring. Should have been it. Should have been it. But it wasn't. He came back. John Cena. John Cena. Both past their prime. Match is 10 years too late. Fuck it. We're going to have it anyway. 5 minutes. Not long enough to really embarrass himself. You can still see Father Time, but not truly embarrass himself the way he did with Roman. Picks up the victory. This is one of the big matches that a lot of people have been bandying around for years. That, again, like Sting, should have happened 10 years before all this happened. By the way, let's stop with these Undertaker Dream matches. Please, please, let's get real. There's nothing else. There's no other Dream matches. There's no other Undertaker match I want to see. And all these matches that you talk about you still want to see because these guys are still alive, you don't actually want to see them because they'll be sad. And this was one of those examples that we didn't really need to or want to see the Cena match. Not then. This is 5-10 years too late. We got it anyway. But victory. He redeemed himself from the last year. Michael Cole on commentary. Undertaker looks better than ever. You lying sack of shit. But that should... Done. Didn't take it. His match with Triple H. They try to make a point here of making it seem like it was a really good match. I don't know. I didn't see it. I would imagine it's like the other matches at this time period. It probably wasn't that good because it's, older Undertaker. He didn't look like he was moving at top speed anymore. But all right. Okay, fine. So before that, Taker comes back. Giant buildings of money that the Saudi prince is pouring at the Undertaker's feet to come back for a casket match against Rusev. Bury me softly, brother. Okay, fine. Fine. Everybody's got a price. Ha 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 ha. Taker comes back, takes the money and runs. Or hobbles, in Taker's case. And that should be it, right? Done. Got his final moment. Is he smart enough to take it, Edge? No, he's not. Triple H. Fine. He wants to do it against a big name. Again, probably 2 Brinks trucks full of money. Australian money, but full of money. Fall at the Undertaker's feet. One last ride. Last time ever. These two will face each other one-on-one. Taker even does the honors for Triple H. For the first time in 16 years, does the honors in a one-on-one contest. Does the honors. Old wrestling tradition. Doing the honors on your way out. He does the honors. Bing, bang, boom. Opportunity. According to this, it was a good match. Opportunity. Take it and run. But he doesn't. But he doesn't. We'll get into the next matches in a minute. Undertaker says, when he's talking about him and Triple H, how the Hell in a Cell match with Triple H, he says it was the first time I think people really thought that the streak was over. No. 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 That's just not true. That's wildly just not true. Hold on. I'm gonna do a cursory search here. There are a couple times when I actually thought that the Undertaker's streak, or that the Undertaker's record at WrestleMania, could be broken. There are a couple real possibilities for real reasons why it could have been broken. Let's see. There was Randy Orton, actually. WrestleMania 21, and I was there for that match. Great show. I probably would have remembered. It wasn't the best match of the night. The best match, obviously, Shawn and Angle. But it was up there, and of course, you had the first Money in the Bank, and Eddie and Ray even. Although I was in traffic for that. I was in fucking LA traffic for that. Anyway, there was a distinct possibility, because WWE was really pushing Randy Orton hard, and I was like, they might give this to Randy. They might give this to Randy. Damn, they might give this to Randy. They didn't. Luckily, they played that smart. Let's see. Where else? Batista. I thought there was a distinct possibility that Batista would end the streak. Again, they were pushing Batista quite hard at that point. Quite hard. Batista and Cena were 1 and 1A, depending on what you're talking about, who you're asking. I thought if anybody was going to break it, it might be Batista. Wasn't Batista. Shawn Michaels, the first time. There were moments in that match where it was like, ooh, oh shit, I thought they're going to give the streak to Shawn. They're going to give the streak to Shawn. I mean, of all people, I remember me, Trapzilla, and another local wrestler, Todd Chandler, all at Trapzilla's house watching that WrestleMania. And Todd specifically got irritated at me because I got mad because it looked like they were actually going to end the streak. And he was like, it's actually end sometime. I was like, yeah, it should end when he retires. Like, you don't end it. You don't end it. At this point, just keep it until he retires. Or don't end it at all and have him retire. But there were distinct moments where it looked like Shawn was going to win. And I was sitting there not cheering for Shawn because I did not want that streak to end. There were specific moments in that match. Yeah, I thought for sure they were going to give it to Shawn. I thought for sure they were going to give it to Shawn. But they didn't. The next year, I knew they weren't going to give it to Shawn. The Triple H No Holds Barred match, I knew they weren't going to give it to Trips. The only spot in the Hell in a Cell where it looked like they might give it to Trips is the super kick into the pedigree. But no. And then the next year was CM Punk. But no. No, there were other moments in the Undertaker streak where it looked like, oh, they might give the win here to this other guy. What was? Ooh, they might give it to this other guy. So no, Taker's not correct on that either. Then they talk about the end of an era match, which was that Hell in a Cell match with Shawn as the referee, and they talk about how, you know, that was a purely organic moment. It was like the last time these guys will be in the ring at this spot, at this moment in time, in this history, and blah, blah, blah. It's Doc, great moment. Again, Edge, great time for Taker to wrap it up. Go home, everybody. Nothing else to see here. They semi-break kayfabe on the ramp. They got a picture that Triple H sent out to him and Shawn that hangs over Undertaker's gym now. Oh my God, my heart bleeds for this moment. It's such a great moment, fantastic moment. Everybody cries. It's the end of an era, the end of an era. It wasn't the end of an era. A couple years later, we get those three guys and Kane in 2 matches back-to-back. Not the end of an era. Should have been. Really could have been. Really, really could have been. And should have been. But wasn't. But wasn't. Taker talks about playing gym with Larry, the WWE trainer that keeps him from completely dying right now. And how Undertaker really is a sore loser and takes playing gym quite seriously and has even kicked out people for being bad luck, specifically Tony Chimmel, Big Show, and Hornswoggle. Hornswoggle's apparently a bad luck charm. Who knew the leprechaun was bad luck? He's a leprechaun. Oh, for fuck's sake. If you can't trust a leprechaun with your luck, who the hell can you trust? But we see the setup for the Brothers of Destruction against DX at Crown Jewel. And we get to see, this is another really good thing that they put in this documentary, one of those unexpected moments. They get a blooper reel of the promo that Kane and Undertaker did where they were in the hall and there was the blue lighting and the red lighting. You know, that super overproduced promo. And one of the directors like, Kane, it's your line. 5, 4, 3, 2, that's super overproduced. Super overproduced. And Kane is like, well, DX, you had 3 words for us. Are you ready? DX, we've got 3 words for you. Undertaker says, go fuck yourselves. Which, hey, ha ha ha, hilarious. Taker joking around. Like, that's great to watch at the end of the guy's career. That's one of those really good, like, behind the scenes moments that you like to see that really are good that are good moments that you see in a documentary like this. Like when you watch, I think it was episode 2, where we saw like candid shots of like Crush and like Savage and like Brett walking backstage when they were going over earlier parts of Taker's career. Like those, or either one or 2. Those are really good things to have in a documentary like this, and they come out really well. Then we get into the relationship with Kane, which is something that a lot of people, and some of the people that I've heard that were discussing this, really wanted to know more about the relationship with Kane, how much respect they have for each other, how Taker really was looking out for Kane when he came in. Originally, how Taker even says, you know, Kane's the one guy who I'd, you know, let hold my wallet if I had to. Like, they have a really good relationship with each other. Like, they're, you know, more, probably deeper relationship than even with Triple H, because Triple H are like, we don't really talk all that much, but he talks about how he and Kane, you know, are friends. And you get, again, you get to see some backstage moments with Taker, like having guys under the learning tree, and Kane is one of those guys he has under the learning tree. There's one weird moment where you see Kane in the back with his mask off, and it's super early Kane too, with like the one arm sleeve and the one arm bear Kane, like that Kane. So that's, you know, those are those things that are like really good, and like him wearing the mask while I guess him and Taker going over their segment or match with Edge and Christian, a super young Edge and Christian. Like, that's those are all really good things that this documentary does, and that WWE has just hours upon hours of things for them to be able to do to have those kinds of moments in documentaries and just on the network in general. Everybody, or Triple H specifically, and Taker, I think, talk about how easy the DX versus Brothers of Destruction match should have been. You know, oh, it's going to be walking. You know, I was surprised when Shawn said he'd come out of retirement, because every time I talked to him, he'd say no. But, you know, we were thinking about it. It was like, oh, you know, we just go out there, throw some glow sticks. It's a walk in the park. You know, we do crotch tops, toss an elbow. You know, it's a cakewalk. It's a walk in the park, especially with these two guys we've been going down the road with all this time, Kane and Undertaker. It's gonna be a cakewalk. It's gonna be the easiest night. It's gonna be a night off. It's gonna be a night off. We're gonna get paid for it. It's great. Except, and Triple H talks about this, except, you know, Taker and I are doing this on and off, on again, off again thing. You know, Kane's a mayor. Shawn hasn't been doing it for 8 years now, so actually, it turned into a bad comedy movie. No shit! No shit. The hubris. The fucking hubris of these four guys to think that they weren't in their 50s when they had this fucking match. To think that they could still do what they did at the level they've done what they did with the time off they've had from doing what they did is astounding. Is amazing. They talk about all the things that went wrong. Triple H tearing his pec off from doing the Harley flip. Fucking Kane's mask and wig falling off on the thing, which is stupid because why are you having? I always hated that Kane mask. I always hated that specific Kane mask. I always hated him coming out in the stupid wig. I always hated it because why? We all know that you have. Why are you coming out in a wig? What are you, Kurt Angle, after he got his head shaved by Edge? The fuck are you doing coming out in a wig? And the mask at that point. Don't come out, just come out. A couple of months ago we saw you without the mask and your shaved head. Fucking get the fuck out of here with that. That was stupid. It's stupid for that to have even happened. Shawn missing the moonsault, apparently the comedy of errors. It was a disaster. And these guys, with all their experience and all their knowledge about wrestling, about themselves, about the human body, about their friendships with each other, didn't know this was a bad idea. They didn't know this was a bad idea. Even during the setup with Triple H and Taker, they didn't know this. They couldn't feel it was a bad idea. They couldn't feel how slowly they were moving, how much Father Time had caught up with all of them. They couldn't feel that. Hell out of here. Hell out of here. Hell out of here. Taker, again. Take another shot. If that match had gone well, that might have been it. Who are you lying to? Who are you lying to, Undertaker? And why are you doing it? I mean, I know who you're lying to. You're lying to me. You're lying to the people. Why are you lying to us at the same time that you're lying to yourself? And Michelle talks about that cycle. This is that clip that we saw in the last one, where he's chasing that last match. He's chasing that last good moment. And how it's a vicious cycle. She's like, well, here we go again. Now he's got to redeem that one. He's going to come back, and once he redeems that one, he's going to feel better about himself. He's going to want one more. And this is where this episode goes back into the real. The real. And this, I feel like this documentary is for Undertaker fans, the super hardcore Undertaker fans that are always out there and are always saying, we still want to see Undertaker go out there and wrestle. Please go out there and wrestle again. Oh, wouldn't it be great him and Shawn one more time? Wouldn't it be great him and the entire roster? If Undertaker runs through all these fantasy bookings that these super, for lack of a better phrase, naive Undertaker fans have about Undertaker of past being the same Undertaker of now, right? That vicious cycle thing. There's a realism at the end of this episode that people really need to pay attention to. HBK goes back into talking about Undertaker chasing that dragon. Michelle says it's about his closure, not what he really does in the ring. It's about the mindset that he has, not necessarily what actually happens in the ring. But he uses what actually happens in the ring as a crutch to help him work through the stuff. JR talks about Undertaker, or JR or Batista talks about the Undertaker having to work through the stuff in his own head. JR specifically talks about him coming to grips with this being near the end of his career, because he knows it's near the end of his career. And he says a quote that he said many times before, but it's very pertinent here. It makes all the sense in the world here. Father Time don't do no jobs, man. He ain't never lost, and he never will. So Undertaker has to come to grips with the end of his career. And you got the talking heads at the back end of this episode talking about how the Undertaker knows that he's near the end of his career, but he's trying to, or that he is work processing that. Maybe sometimes it's him coming to grips with it, sometimes it's not, like the tag match. Sometimes it is, but oh, that felt great. If this is the last one, maybe, I think I'm satisfied with that. And then sometimes it's not when he watches that Roman match again. And he feels like he can do it one more time. Or he has the good 5 minutes with John Cena, and he feels like he can do it all over again. He doesn't come to terms with it. And that's the problem. And that leads us to the clip that we see from the next episode, where we see Taker going to that one Mania that he wasn't in. I can't remember what it was. Whichever one it was. This is in the era where all those WrestleManias run together. And he's like, man, I should have been out there. Here we go again. And then we see the clip. You know the clip. We see the Goldberg clip. And I think they cut it off just before Goldberg drops Taker on his head. Oof. This episode is probably overall realer than even the last episode, because they go more into depth with the botches of this now terrible match that he has, like the notably terrible match with the Brothers of Destruction and DX versus him and the Cena, the whatever matches him and Cena, him and Rusev. But the notably terrible match, they go more into, we should not have been out there. Triple H shouldn't, they talk about how it shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have been out there. And yet, here the fuck we go again. Party people, I need to hear from you what you thought about this episode, End of an Era of The Undertaker Last Ride, down there in the comments section. Like, share, subscribe. How does this episode stack up to the other episodes? I feel like if we're ranking the episodes, you got, this one is probably ahead of episode 2 for me, but it's still a really, episode 2 is still really good. This one's, because of how real it gets, how in your face it is. Yeah, and a lot of the backstage stuff is really good too. But tell me what you think down there in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. I will be back with another Undertaker review, obviously, next week when the next episode drops. I will be back doing a live stream of A Different World this Thursday. I am working on another video. I just dropped my review of The Big Show, so go check that out. I've got other videos that I've come out with over the last couple of weeks. Go check those out. They'll be at the end card somewhere. And until then, until next time, rest in peace.